We continue now at the top of Daf Mem Gimel Amud Beis in Meseches Nazir. This is Nazir Daf 43b. The Gemara says, Amar Rav Chisda Amar Rav. Rav Chisda says that Rav says, Nikta Rosho Shalaviv. Let's say his father's head is cut off. Eino Metame Lo. So he's not allowed to become Tameh to him. This is talking about a Kohen who generally is allowed to become Tameh for his relatives. But it's saying that if the head gets cut off from his father, he cannot become Tameh. Rashi says, Amar Rav Chisda, Nikta Rosh Shalaviv, Afal Pi Sharosh Betzara Guf, even though the head is right next to the body. Ho'ulakvar Nikta Eino Metame. Since it was cut off, he's not allowed to be Metame. Damakar Lenefesh Lo Yitama Bi'amav Ki'im L'Shero HaKarov Elov Li'imo U'Li'aviv Bizman Shu Shalim. This idea that he's allowed to become Tameh to his relative is only when the relative is whole. Sholin Ispardu Eivar of Zemizeh, that the limbs aren't torn from one another, separated from one another. V'lo Bizman Shu Chaser Kagon Zeh Shenikta Roshu. It doesn't apply in a situation where the body is lacking, like the head is cut off. That's the idea. Eino Metame Lo, my time, and what's the reason? Amar Kra, the pasuk says, La'aviv, to his father, Bizman Shu Shalem, only when the body is whole. V'lo Bizman Shu Chaser, not in a situation where the body is lacking. Amar Le Rav Hamnuna, so Rav Hamnuna said to him, Elamayat, according to that reasoning, Ka'azil bepiksa da'arvus u'paskua ganve l'reishi. Let's say he's going through the valley of Aravus and bandits, they cut off his head. This is an area that's frequented by bandits. Hachenami delo l'tamele. Are you going to say in that situation also he's not allowed to become tamei to him, to the father? Amar Le said to him, Meis mitzvah kamre. There you're giving me a case of a meis mitzvah. There's no one else to deal with that body. So hashdi yeshalomer ba'achrinim mechayev. If a Kohen is allowed to become tamei even for other people, non-relatives who are meis mitzvah, bi'aviv lo kol shekain, with his father, certainly he'd be allowed to. In other words, what we're talking about over here when we say that if the body is lacking, the Kohen is not allowed to become tamei, that's in a situation where it's not a situation of a meis mitzvah. That's in a situation where others can deal with the body. But if he's going through the valley of Aravis, an area of bandits, and there's no one to deal with the mace, so then it would be a meis mitzvah. Of course, it would be permitted. But the Gemara continues, V'hai meis mitzvah, is this really a case of a meis mitzvah? V'atanya, but we learned in a brayso, Eizehu meis mitzvah, what's considered a meis mitzvah? Kol she'ein lo kovrin, that's if there's no one around to bury the body. But if he can call out and others will answer him, meaning the person who's dying is able to call out and people will answer, Ein zeh meis mitzvah, that's not considered a meis mitzvah. Voyeslei baras, over here the son is present, there are other people present, this should not be considered a case of a meis mitzvah. But the Gemara says, no, Kaven to Ka'azal Ba'orcha, since he's on the road, it's an area far away from other people. Kamisha Ein Lo Kovrim Dami, it's similar to a situation where there's no one available to bury. This would be considered a meis mitzvah, and that's why it's permitted in this case. And the Gemara continues, Meisvei, we have the following question on Rav Chisda, Lo Yitama, the pasuk says he can become tamei for her. This is also talking about a Kohen who can become tamei to his sister. Lahu metame, he's allowed to become tamei to her. Ve'enu metame le'evoreh, but he's not allowed to become tamei to her limbs. Lefi she'enu metame le'ever min hachai shel aviv, because he's not allowed to become tamei to the limb of, let's say, his father is alive and lost a limb. He can't become tamei for that limb. Avol machzer hu aletzim kisora, but he is allowed to go back. Let's say there's a bone the size of a barley, and he needs to bury. He wants to complete the burial of the body, find that last bone. He's allowed to do that. My machzer aletzim kisora. What does it mean? He's allowed to return on a bone the size of a barley. He's allowed to go back for that small amount of the body. Lav lameimradi michzer porsa. Doesn't the brayso mean to say that if the body is missing a small amount, he's allowed to go, the Kohen's allowed to go and find that small part of the body, and you see that the body does not have to be whole for the Kohen to be allowed to deal with the body of the relative. But the Gemara says, lo, no, this brayso does not pose a difficulty for Rav Chisda, because Ahi Reb Yehudi, because that brayso follows the opinion of Reb Yehuda. It's a das yochid, the Tanya, as we learned in a brayso, Reb Yehuda, Omer Reb Yehuda says, lo yitam, it says he's metame for her, v'einu metame levoreh, but he's not allowed to become tamei for her limbs, she'einu metame al evrim min achai shalaviv, just like he's not allowed to become tamei from the evrim min achai of his father. If his father is alive and lost a limb, he can't become tamei for that limb. Avol metame hu le'evrim min hameis shalaviv, but he is allowed to become tamei for the limb of his father if his father died. And again, that's the opinion of Reb Yehuda, that the body does not need to be whole, but Rav Chisda was not talking according to Reb Yehuda. But the Gemara continues, V'atanya Rav Kahana Reb Elazar ben Yaakov, didn't Rav Kahana Reb Elazar ben Yaakov teach in the following brayso, Lo Yitama, again it says he becomes tamei for her, Ve'enu metame le'evarim, he's not allowed to become tamei to her limbs, Prat lekazayas min hameis, that would exclude a kazayas from the dead body, he can't become tamei for that, or kazayas neitzel, or kazayas of fluid from the dead body, Umale tarvid rekav, or let's say you have a spade's amount of dust from the dead body. So you're not allowed to become tummy to these small portions of the dead body. Now I might think he's not allowed to become tummy for her spine, or for her skull, or for the majority of the body, or for the majority of the bones of the body. And so to that, the Brisa says, Ksiv, the Pasuk says, V'yamartu aleim, it says, and say to them, Hosav lochakasav tuma acheres. The Pasuk is adding another tuma, meaning to say, even this part of the body, Shedra, Gilgolas, Rov Minyana, he is allowed to become Tameh. We'll continue with this discussion in the next video on Daf Mem Dalid Amud Aleph.